Good morning. Today is Wednesday, June 14th, and this is Devotions from St. Paul Evangelical Lutheran Church in Carlisle, Pennsylvania. I'm going to take a passage today from Mark's Gospel. And it's a story that a lot of people probably know about a vineyard that a man makes and lets to tenant farmers and what comes out of that. So this is from the 12th chapter of Mark's Gospel. Then he began to speak to them in parables. A man planted a vineyard, put a fence around it, dug a pit for the winepress, and built a watchtower. Then he leased it to tenants and went to another country. When the season came, he sent a slave to the tenants to collect from them his share of the produce of the vineyard. But they seized him and beat him and sent him away empty-handed. And again he sent another slave to them. This one they beat over the head and insulted. Then he sent another one, and that one they killed. And so it was with many others. Some they beat, and others they killed. He had still one other, a beloved son. Finally he sent him to them, saying, "They will respect my son." But those tenants said to one another, "This is the heir. Come, let us kill him, and the inheritance will be ours." So they seized him, killed him, and threw him out of the vineyard. In Jesus' day, and even to today, the idea of tenant farming is right. There are a lot of places where people own farms and have other people work them. And so when this parable was told in Jesus' day, it would have been very familiar to the people of that day. But tenant farming is a contract. You work the land, you get some of the produce, the owner of the land gets some of the produce. And that's what the owner thought would happen when he set his slaves, servants, to collect for him. But the people who were on the farm thought otherwise. They said, "We did all the work on this vineyard, we should get all the produce." Later in the chapter, it says, the Pharisees understood that Jesus was telling this parable about them. Now, the last part before that was he sent his son and he was killed. Of course, this is predicting that Jesus himself would be killed by the leaders of his day. And it came to pass. So the historical identification of the passage is pretty straightforward. But what about today? I read in this Lutheran Study Bible that the vineyard was supposed to be the nation of Israel. And the tenants were the people, particularly the leaders of the people of Israel. And then the folks that came to collect were the prophets. So how do we update that to today? Well, I think that the vineyard is the whole world, and the tenants are all people. And so we are tenants of God's world. And that means that we have a contract with God, just like the tenants did in the parable. We have an obligation to take care of the vineyard for the owner. And we have an obligation to give back to the owner a good part of the produce that comes out of the vineyard, our world. This is really a stewardship lesson. And there's lots of things that are told to us about stewardship and taking care of the world. But if you look at the parable that Jesus told, the tenants in his day didn't do that. And particularly the tenants before that didn't do that. So we have to investigate why that is and see what our motivation is. And I think it comes down to something reasonably simple. We want what we work for. We deserve what we work for. It's our labor. It's our work. It's our produce. And we don't want to give it up. And I think the Pharisees were exactly like that. Now, with the Pharisees, you understand, they didn't actually work a vineyard, but they had power, political power and religious power in their community. They were well respected. They were well spoken. They were very well educated. And they made the rules. And they didn't want to give that up. And Jesus came and was upsetting the whole system. So today, whatever it is that we do, that we feel some kind of power for ourselves with, some kind of just desserts that we have earned for ourselves, we have to think hard about whether to give that up in part to God, to Jesus, because anything that we have earned because of the world that He has given us, the talent He has given us, and the time on this earth together that He has given us. And so we have the same choices that the Pharisees had in this world that is now the vineyard from this parable. We can be good stewards, which is what we're called to do. It's what the Pharisees were called to do. Or we can be like them and say, no, I did this, I'm going to keep it. Now, I don't know about you, you have to make your own decisions, but for me, I come down on both sides way too often. There are some things that I'm pretty good about giving back, and there are way too many things that I am absolutely terrible about giving back. And so it's a constant struggle to not be the Pharisees in this story, but to be the good stewards that we're called to be. And that's a determination that you have to make on your own, where you fall in this whole situation. And then, at least in my opinion, you have to work on that. You have to think about that. You have to say, okay, I'm going to be a good steward, and this is how I'm going to do it. We'll never get it perfect, never. But that's why Jesus came and gave us the teachings that He did, and particularly why He died on the cross and rose from the grave for our salvation. But we are called to be good stewards as best we can, and then to have abundant faith in Jesus that when we fail, He will be there for us. I hope you'll think about this passage. It is a challenge to me, but I think that we can do better than the Pharisees in this story. We won't be perfect, but we can do better. But it's going to take work, it's going to take effort, and it's going to take an abundant faith in Jesus for us to do all that. I commend this passage to your thoughts. Thank you.